welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show here on Twitch, YouTube, and, of course, Facebook. I am your host, Mr. Andrew Valentin himself, and we are, of course, coming to you live here from the Illinois Media School here in the O'Hare campus itself. I hope everybody out there is having a fantastic Friday, as always. I know right now here in Chicago it is freezing cold. And the roads are terrible, but the worst part yet, nobody knows how to goddamn drive in this weather ever. I mean, ever. It is ridiculous. I almost got ran off the road this morning because somebody didn't make their turn. And so as I'm turning, they decided to go right at the same time as I was because turn lanes don't really mean anything nowadays. They really don't. So I hope everybody else out there is being safe, driving safe, being safe from the crazy drivers that are out there, all the good stuff and everything. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I got the crew with me here. Obviously, a few people are missing here, but we do have my man Scotty, we got Julius, and, of course, we got wonderful Jessica as well. Thank you guys, of course, for joining me and making this possible. How you guys doing back there?
Andrew, are you sure you weren't just tired when you were driving?
I wasn't the one driving. I was riding shotgun.
Oh, okay.
This was when I was at work.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, I mean, technically, if he would have ran into our truck, he would have been destroyed. But
Sure, okay.
you know what, Scotty? I don't need to hear from you
Yo,
because if we
actually-
were to pan down some cameras right now, we'd see some of his pride and joy work. If you
Look,
guys want to
hey.
know what he does to our studio, we could really get into that if we want to.
I apologize for it. It wasn't my
You don't gotta
fault.
apologize to me. You know who you're probably gonna have to apologize to.
Yeah, I talked to him. I'll talk to him on Tuesday. But, Andrew, I did hit a sick drift in front of some people earlier this
Oh,
morning.
my
I felt
God.
so happy.
I don't. So much of me just wants to be like a parent and just like knock you upside the
Yo,
head.
Andrew, my Jetta is insane in the snow.
I,
That thing's insane.
that's great, Scotty. Please don't do that. You're almost. I know you just hit the 2-0 mark, man, but come on. I don't need you getting a ticket. I don't need you getting arrested because you're doing foolish things.
Dude, what can I say? The people who built my Jetta, they really knew what they were doing when building my car.
Okay. Well, congrats to those people that built your Jetta.
Do you know who built Volkswagen? Who made Volkswagen, Andrew?
We don't have time for a history lesson. We got sports stuff we got to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll worry about that. We'll worry about that on the History Channel for X-Bomb Sports. How about that? Okay.
Can we do that? Can we do that, please? I can read the preamble.
This was a mistake, right, Julius? I shouldn't have said anything part of history. Yeah, exactly. I don't. All right, let's get into. We got a lot to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, we've been gone for a little bit of a while. A lot of things have been happening. You know, life, all that good stuff. Been cold, all that. So we're gonna kind of do a quick recap of all the things in football. I promise you we'll get back to the questions. I know you guys have been enjoying that. We'll get back to all the other things as well. I know we got NBA, Major League Baseball. We got a lot of things that we will eventually start covering too. Plus, I want to start bringing back some of the old games. I know you guys have been asking about that as well. But without further ado, are y'all ready to get into this?
Absolutely.
And
Good to go.
let us begin, ladies and gentlemen. So the first thing we're going to cap this off with is some big coaching moves are happening across the NFL and college football, but the biggest one is, of course, the legend himself, Mr. Nick Saban, has officially retired from the University of Alabama as the head coach of the football program. And obviously, if you don't know, we had just finished a show when this had occurred, and it obviously shocked the entire world because we all knew that Nick Saban was getting up in age. We all knew that this was something that was inevitably going to come. But I don't think any of us saw this coming at this moment, right? They had just made the college football playoff. They were one overtime play away from possibly being back in the national championship. There was so much about that moment that obviously for all out of us, we were not sure how this was going to play out, right? I mean, this is, I would say, the best college football coach ever. The greatest college football coach ever, right? This is a man who everywhere he went, be it Michigan State or LSU or Alabama in the college ranks, he turned them around. He made them successful, and he created he built some of these amazing programs that then gave the NFL some incredible players and great teams. So obviously, it is a shock. I mean, this is a monstrous wave that hits the college football world, right? This sends ripple effects throughout not just the SEC, but the entire college football landscape in terms of, well, so where's Alabama at right now, and who's up next if they're not going to be competing for national championships anymore? Which, let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. We don't know if they're going to be that bad. They could still be pretty good. I mean, they found a replacement in Kalen DeBoer, who obviously has had success a lot in his career. Everywhere he's went, he's been able to turn programs around. He's been able to have success. He's been able to find ways to find the right players at the right time, and that should be noted, right? I mean, be it the small schools like a Sioux Falls to, the big program being obviously Washington that he was able to kind of flip around. And before then, it was Fresno State. Like, he's been able to do some pretty miraculous things. Obviously, there's going to be major question marks because when you compare him next to Nick Saban, yeah, there is a tremendous difference in how those two not only coach, but also how they recruit, how they treat players, how they act with the board, and how they act with boosters, right? And obviously, legacy. Nick Saban is going to be the greatest football coach, one of the greatest football coaches, I think, be it college or NFL all time, right? The man just knew how to coach a football team every time. Yeah, Kalen DeBoer is a younger guy coming into it. This is a huge opportunity for him. A lot of people are obviously they're steadfast before they make the push to say he's the guy, right? It's first year, big program. A lot of guys transferring. A lot of guys are leaving, right? We just found out actually a few minutes ago that their top quarterback, Julian Sayin, is actually decommitting and headed for the transfer portal. Like, that's happening. So now you're out a 5-star quarterback. You've lost a 5-star receiver. You've lost a 5-star safety. You now also lost a 5-star tackle. So Bama's seeing the desertion happen very quickly. But, Scotty, I'll ask you, man. Obviously, the impact of Nick Saban is already being felt. We are seeing the process of how this kind of thing seems to happen when coaches leave. We see this all the time. But obviously, Saban is one of the biggest names, or is the big name in all of college football. So with this happening, Kalen DeBoer stepping in, seeing the success he had at Washington, where do you see Kalen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban? And also, too, I'll ask you, where do you see Nick Saban's legacy amongst college football and football in general? What do you think?
Well, let me just say this. Straight out of the gate, I mean, you know me, I'm an SEC guy, Florida Gator fan. You're an LSU fan.
Yes.
Good riddance, Nick Saban. Thank you for leaving.
The fan in me agrees. The fan in me agrees.
Is saying
yes.
Goodbye, Nick Saban. But honestly, taking fandom out of it, you're talking about easily, in my opinion, the best coach in college football history. The teams that obviously Alabama has always had great teams, but look at one position and the amount of not so good quarterbacks compared to everyone else. He made A.J. McCarron look so good.
Yeah.
That's
true.
He made so many quarterbacks that may have been 3 or 4 stars look like some of the best quarterbacks in the country because that's just what he did. You're talking about one of the best coaches, one of the best recruiters of all time in college football. And I feel bad for DeBoer because I feel like he's coming into a position that is basically setting him up to fail. What college football fans need to realize is that year one, Alabama is not competing. Don't expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
If they do, yeah, that's great for them. That shows how good Kalen DeBoer is. But me personally, I'm not expecting Alabama in the first season, maybe even the second season, to compete for national titles, to maybe even compete for the SEC. It takes a minute. I was a little kid, but I remember when Nick Saban started at Alabama. They weren't great. Nick Saban's worst coaching years were at Alabama in the first couple of years. It takes a minute. And like you just said, with everyone transferring out and everyone decommitting who's coming out of classes in 24 and 25, it's going to take a minute for Kalen DeBoer to build up this program. Just give him time.
Yeah, no, you're on point, absolutely on point. I don't necessarily think that the mindset should be like, oh, we're not going to compete. I mean, certainly keep expectations lower, I would say, than you would for like a Nick Saban, right? With Nick Saban, you always knew there's a chance they're going to go 10-2, 11-1. They're going to be in that talk for a national championship potentially, right? They will find a way. I mean, this was a year too, right? This was supposedly a down year. They end up going 11-1. They make the college football playoff. They are but one play away potentially from possibly being right there playing for the national title instead of Michigan. So you can't take anything away from that team, obviously. Now, yes, what they've lost a starting left tackle in Proctor, who's probably one of the best in the country. He's going to go somewhere special. Caleb Downs is maybe one of the best young safeties in the game. He's going to go somewhere special. Sounds like Georgia potentially. I mean, Julian Sayin is a good quarterback. You know, Jalen Milroe hasn't left, though, which is good. I mean, I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be like that NFL superstar like we've seen with other guys, but you never know, right? Talented.
Also take into account all the players leaving for the draft.
Right.
McKinstry.
Absolutely.
You know, those guys that help them down the line get to the spot they were this year is not going to help Kalen DeBoer in his first season because they're going to the draft.
Right. Well, and a lot of these guys committed to Nick Saban and what his program was. This is going to be something completely different. And if this is not what you signed up for, this is not what you committed to, then obviously, yeah, you're going to be a little bit hesitant, I think, to make that change. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, obviously, for Nick Saban. And you know, his legacy is already in a lock. But for Kalen DeBoer, I think there's a good shot he could go at least 7-5, 8-4. I mean, this is still Alabama. They still have some players. He's not a bad coach. He's not a defensive-minded coach that is a good manager of people, I would say, like you see with Nick Saban. This is a man who certainly is more of a get in there, coach your guy, get the offense together. That's more of his forte. So I think, if anything, this is going to help benefit a guy like Jalen Milroe. And now you've also got the young man, Mack, who came from Washington, who he's been working with. So you're getting a quarterback that you're familiar with to get in there, which is nice. It's good. You need to have somebody in there as you start to build your own recruits. So it's not out of the mindset to say that Kalen DeBoer could maybe have success even in the first year. Maybe they are competing for a major bowl game. Maybe they are in that chance to possibly be one of those teams in the 12, right? I mean, we're going to a 12 teams thing now. You go 9-3, you go 10-2. You might be just good enough to be able to make that 12-team playoff. So
especially in the SEC where you can get some good wins.
Absolutely.
Like against teams like Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas is being added. If you can sneak a good win out of there, they got a shot at making the 12 team. And it's not like Kalen DeBoer is a massive step down from Nick Saban.
No.
Like you said, you're talking about a guy who took his team to the national championship.
Right.
It's not like they're bringing in, some guy who coached Tulane or, Middle Tennessee State. No, they're bringing in a guy who was just in the national championship.
Yeah. You can't take away the success that Kalen DeBoer's had. You just have to remind yourself that, you know what, this is going to be a completely different looking car. This is going to be, you're no longer driving the fancy limousines and the big SUV and everything that's all, luxury and everything. Now you're kind of downgrading the car a little bit. You got to take it a little bit down to another level, and now you have to work your way back up onto the ground. And that's okay. It's okay that that's the case. This was something that you knew was bound to happen. You knew it was gonna happen. Just, it's not the end of the world, because at some point every coach is gonna call it quits, right? I mean, LSU, I know that at some point Brian Kelly could either A, pick up and leave and go to another job if he feels like he can have more success, or B, he's gonna eventually retire. And that's okay. And I'm not even Brian Kelly's biggest fan anyways. Like, I think he's an okay coach. I don't think he's a great coach, but he's a hell of a recruiter, I will say that. He's done a great job, I think, building out that defense too. I mean, and that's just me bragging a little bit on LSU. But nevertheless, obviously this is monumental because now college football is going to see a major shift. I mean, a lot of those Bama players, by the way, they're going to be right back in the SEC because they're going over to Texas.
or Georgia.
Or
Georgia's
Georgia,
picking up
yeah.
everyone
Georgia's
right
picking
now,
up a
too.
lot of guys. I mean, I'm excited to see what that's like because Isaiah Bond and Nieblak are the two guys right now in Alabama that are going to Texas. You got a few other guys that are committing over to Texas now from Bama. There's a lot happening on that level now, too. So I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see how that plays out for sure.
And props to Nick Saban going out basically on top.
Yeah,
He
more or
won
less.
The SEC, he went out on his own terms,
Yeah.
which, unlike another coach we're about to talk about,
Right,
obviously
yeah.
wasn't able to go out on his high horse.
Well, he's not out yet. And speaking of that coach, it would be Bill Belichick, folks. He's not out of it yet, but he is out of it in New England. Bill Belichick is currently out with the New England Patriots. They decided to part ways. We kind of talked about this a little bit briefly, of course. But they have now since hired their new head coach, and that is linebackers coach, Gerard Mayo, former linebacker for the New England Patriots. He's been with the team as an assistant, working his way up and through the organization. Obviously, a little bit of a shock, a little bit of a kind of jettison thing for us to see when it comes to Bill Belichick stepping away from New England because over 20 years with him as the head coach, none of us thought that this was something that would actually happen. But this was kind of the final straw, I think, because you see a string of bad seasons coming here against the Patriots. You're watching this team lose time and time again in some of the weirdest ways possible, too, right? Quarterbacks getting pulled, bad plays being misjudged by other players, right? Like the Chandler Jones one, I think, is going to be one of the most infamous moments, I think, for the Belichick era on how it ended. You know, and that's the thing is like how it started was so incredible. It almost felt like he sold his soul to the devil, right? And you got 3 titles in 4 years, and then you get 6 titles in all. And then after Tom Brady leaves, obviously that's a huge cog in the machine that's gone. Now you're trying to replace that. Well, the defense kind of held that thing up a little bit that first year, so they make the playoffs, but they don't win. But hey, Mac Jones did fine. But then you start to see, well, teams are picking up on his weaknesses. Right? The Patriots try to pour into their offense, but they're not finding the guys. They're finding just guys, right? Juju's okay. Kendrick Bourne's just another dude, right? Hunter Henry is a fine tight end. I still have some hope that Gesicki has some magic in him, but it's more about his size at this point than his skill set. I mean, there's just not enough there for them to be banking on, oh, well, we can scathe by with an average offense when our defense has been so great. Well, the problem is that it might have been a lot better maybe this year if Gonzalez doesn't get hurt and Judon's not injured and all these different things were happening for them, right? But, okay, so Robert Kraft says, hey, Belichick and I decided we're going to go our separate ways, which I'm guessing it probably was either I fire you or you can quit. That's how I'm going to judge that right now, just on my opinion alone. But I have a lot of questions about the Gerard Mayo hiring in the sense that he is a Belichick guy. And one thing we know about Belichick's coaching tree is that while it is rich with names, it is not rich with wins, right? I mean, the one guy that he's really attached to that has the wins is Vrabel, but he was never a coach. He was only a player under Belichick. He went to Ohio State after he was done playing and then moved up to the Texans and then got the Tennessee Titans job and probably will get like the Chargers job or something. I don't know. He'll get a job somewhere. We know he will. But I just don't know if Gerard Mayo, I've heard great things about him. He's been up for the head coaching thing before. I think he's a smart guy who knows defense. He knows football. He's a former player. He understands how this game works. It's just the reflection of, but is it just another copy and paste of Belichick? Because we see that with guys like Bill O'Brien, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, I mean, Eric Mangini, right? You can go down the list, Romeo Crennel. There's just a long list of these guys that come from his tree, and Josh McDaniels being one of the bigger perpetrators as well, of course. They just look good, but then when they go to be a head coach, they all just hit the average mark. So, I don't know. I mean, from you, Scotty, where do you stand with Gerard Mayo? Obviously, Belichick leaving. I mean, we're going to get into where he goes next. But for the Gerard Mayo hire, How do you see this one playing out for the Patriots? What's your gauge on him being the new head coach?
So the way I look at it is just, I don't think this is them instantly trying to compete for next season. I know you don't really want to get so far into their offseason, what they should do.
Right.
But more than likely, they're getting a new quarterback. More than likely, they need to replace a lot of positions on offense. It's going to take some time. I feel like this is a transitional quarterback hire, like just for the time being. I don't see him staying there for long. I feel like this is like Hugh Jackson or something like that.
Like a Rick Renteria kind of thing for the Cubs and the Sox. Like, here, placeholder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, going back to their quarterback position, I don't know if you've heard the rumors. Apparently, Belichick wanted to get rid of Mac Jones, but Robert Kraft said to keep him.
Okay.
So, there's a little problems there. Now they're going to be looking to get a new quarterback, whether that be Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams, all those guys rumored there.
Right.
This is a transitional guy. I feel like the players that they have right now, they came in to be under Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
So having a coach who has the connection still to Bill Belichick kind of relieves the pressure on them, and maybe so many players won't want to leave or, maybe re-signing because it's like, oh, this is kind of what it was like under Bill, and then maybe in like 3 years they bring in a new coach who's the guy who can help get them back going in the AFC East.
Well, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I get the continuity thing. I've heard a lot of that, right? Oh, he gives the Patriots a sense of continuity, right? A guy that everybody knows. And I hear you on that. It's just, but you look at that roster, and I can maybe point to, and I'm saying maybe point to, 3 or 4 guys that you could call are like legitimate name players that you could say like they rep the Patriots, and those would be like Gonzalez, Stevenson, Judon, like.
Matthew Judon's probably gone.
And that's the thing is like you could probably say he's up and done. Like, so you've got 2 guys then that I can honestly think of at this point.
Mac Jones, you're building around Mac Jones.
Right, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Like, we've talked about this before. Like, the Mac Jones situation was Mac Jones is questioning everything that's going on with the Belichick, the Patriot way. Belichick doesn't like guys that question. He likes to run things like the military. I understand that. I get that. But you got to understand, what worked in the 2000s does not always work in 2022 or 2023 at this point, right? Or not, we're in 2024. So the way that you coached a guy maybe like a Teddy Bruschi or a Mike Vrabel or, a Tom Brady back
Gerard Mayo.
Or Gerard Mayo, yeah. When you coach those guys back in 2003 or 2010 or 2011 or whatever it was, it's not going to hit the same way that you did when you're coaching a guy like, Jack Jones or, Gonzalez or any of these guys now that are young players coming in. It's going to be a different feeling. And it obviously, look, I'm saying I think we can all agree he got Bill O'Brien to kind of just be like, he's your quarterback from Alabama, so you deal with him. Like, he's a familiar name. He trusts Bill. They had a great year. They went to the Super Bowl with him. But at the same time, Bill knows Mac Jones. Fix him. And he couldn't fix him. There was irredeemable qualities that came with Mac Jones that you could not fix. And then, I love David, but he was so into the Bailey Zappi as the man coming from Western Kentucky, and I was telling him, I'm like, he's probably no better than like a Taylor Heineke, Gardner Minshew guy, and I hate to say I was right, but he kind of looks like he's in that same pattern. It's not to say he's bad, but you can't count on him to be the starter. You just can't. Backup, third stringer, sure. USFL star, XFL star. Oh, you bet. That dude be lighting it up.
Oh, yeah.
And but the NFL, it's not like, come on. He's on the roster. He's just not going to be the guy.
By the way, Andrew, it's now the what is it?
The United Football League.
UFL.
Yes,
Get
the
it
UFL.
Right. I can't wait to watch that, low-key.
I'm excited. We're going to talk about it once it starts kicking off.
Yeah,
The draft has since happened. I'm sure we're going to talk about the gambling aspects of it because I know a lot of you guys were in for it when the XFL was coming back because we talked a lot about the gambling aspect on that as well, as we did with the AAF, and we were there for the beginning and the very quick end of that one. That was a trip of a year, that's for sure. But listen, I'm not saying Gerard Mayo can't be the guy, obviously, but you're right. He could be the transition kind of player. It's just I just don't like it when guys when it's a constant. Well, it feels like you're still hiring within the same system. To me, it just I get it. I understand. It just, to me, it feels like, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting this different results, right, or whatever it is. Like that's what this feels like. And maybe not to the extent of some teams we're going to get to here in a little bit, but certainly for this team, I just feel like you needed to go more outside the box. And maybe not, but I don't know. Like, the Belichick thing here at the end wasn't working. So, but Scotty, I know you're shaking your head at me, but
it's just because the way I see it isn't so much of staying in. I think it's just the right way to transition from a basically like dictatorial way of running football.
That's a good way to put it.
Go to kind of what the NFL is now.
Yeah.
It's a coaching hire that gets you from point A to point B, and he's going to start alleviating that pressure that you have to live by the Patriot way, bring in the more new age coaching. I think it kind of works from a certain point of view. Obviously, like you said, you're not looking at him to be the guy over the next couple of years.
Right.
But it's a good way to get from point A to point B.
I understand that. I do. I feel like they're a team at this point that it's like, not necessarily tear down every wall that's standing on the house, but I think you certainly can say we've got the foundation at this point is a mess. The walls are cracking. The staircase is wobbly. Everything's falling apart. This is kind of that moment where it's like, you know what? We have the perfect opportunity to knock the house down and maybe try and start over again. That's all I'm saying, is that at this point, the Patriot house, that dynasty, it's crumbled. And I think it's just time to just knock it down officially and pour a new foundation, and let's start over again, right? Build a new house with good foundation. Unlike two other teams who decided they're going to stick with the same old foundation that apparently they think is working, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys and the Bears. Two of the teams that were suspected to possibly fire their head coaches by season's end. Obviously, we learned the Bears' fate of Matt Eberflus very early on, that he would be retained for another season. So he's getting his third-year opportunity here for him to be able to coach the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, Mike McCarthy made the playoffs. Dallas was one of the top teams in the NFL. They win the division and go into Green Bay, and obviously what happened. They didn't win the game. We'll get into that, obviously, but now he is staying in Dallas, and I'm not even shocked by that. I don't know who would be. Like, of course Jerry Jones would stay with Mike McCarthy. They just went 11-6. They just won the division. Why would you be so shocked at that? I mean, obviously there's names out there. Why would you go get a name, right? But Mike McCarthy's still a name. He won games. They had Dak looked a lot better underneath him than he did when he had Kellen Moore, I would argue, right?
He waited until the playoffs to throw his 10th interception.
Yeah,
That's an improvement.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's growth, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's growth in much the same way that people say Justin Fields has grown. So,
Okay, bud. Okay. Let's go through the Cowboys first, then we'll get
yes.
to the Bears.
Well, in essence, I mean, looking at these two teams, obviously, look, when it comes to the Cowboys, they were a playoff team, I think, all the way from beginning to end. They had the look. They had the quarterback was playing well. Receiver, one of the top receivers in the league, right? Offensive line was shaky. The defense was kind of all over the place. They had this incredible cornerback in Bland that really stepped up and set the interception record, touchdowns returned for interceptions returned for touchdowns. They have all these different marks that they're hitting on for the Dallas Cowboys, right? I mean, they got 3 players that are right now in the top 10 as far as people are ranking them for MVP. That's impressive. Like, they haven't had that in a long time. But Mike McCarthy doesn't have Aaron Rodgers, and that has always been a safety net of his from Green Bay. And I think that he also has a level of complacency and conservatism when it comes to his coaching style in the playoffs, where it's not about trying to win the game, it's don't lose the game. And you gotta kind of go for it. I love Bruce Arians when he says, "No risk it, no biscuit." I love that. I love that phrase, because you got to go for it, especially in the playoffs. It's win or go home. And Dallas always feels like they kind of they floor it, they put their foot on the gas, and they're trying to go for it, right? They're about to hit the full speed, and then they just take their foot off the gas and start applying the brakes slowly but surely. And it's like, no, what are you doing? Keep the foot on the gas. Keep going. You know, if you trust your guy to drive the car, he shouldn't lose control. And I feel like Mike McCarthy sometimes feels like, I don't know if Dak can handle this. I don't know if they can handle this. So from where I stand, I'm not surprised with Dallas at all, though, because Jerry Jones, when you're one of his guys, he's gonna love you to the day he dies. I've said this on the show. How many times have you quoted me saying it, right? Loyalty to a fault. That's Jerry Jones for you right there. He trusts guys to a huge fault. Every time. He did it with Jason Garrett, and he's doing it again with Mike McCarthy, I think. I don't know if he necessarily should be fired because he did a great job this year, I think, as far as coaching goes. But you're also possibly going to lose Dan Quinn. And if you don't have him, is the defense going to be the same? Is the offense going to shift? Are you going to have to change things around? What's going to happen next with that team?
I was going to say this is going to be the telling year for the Cowboys in the Mike McCarthy era.
Yeah.
Depending on how, because apparently the reports are Dan Quinn is interviewing, but he's reportedly going to come back if he doesn't get a head coaching job.
Right.
And he hasn't gotten a head coaching job in the last 2 seasons that we said he should get a head coaching job.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we could see Dan Quinn back, and then it's, like a cycle again. You go through it. So this is going to be the telling year if he does go. If he stays, we're going to have the same conversation next year because it's the same thing with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott at quarterback, it doesn't go well in the playoffs. He's barely won a playoff game.
Yeah.
He can't get past the divisional round.
Right.
To be fair, was it the greatest matchup to go against the Packers? Yes, it was. They should have dominated the Packers.
Right.
But they got dominated.
Oh,
At
yeah.
what point do you change the personnel there in the coaching staff and the players? Who knows if it's Mike McCarthy is the main problem? Who knows if it's Dak is the main problem? Maybe changes need to be happening in Dallas.
Yeah, well, and they're going to have to because guess what? They're going to have some salary cap issues they're going to run into because you got to figure out, are you going to re-sign Dak? What's going to happen with Zach Martin and Tyson Smith? Those are 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen that you've had on that line now for a while, and they're getting hurt, and they're getting older. So you got to find a way. How do we replace them? Do we have the right guys to replace them? These are all, and no, you bring up good points. Like, these are all questions Dallas has to ask themselves, right? And not only that, but the sting of this, I think, hurts even more because, obviously, this is McCarthy's former team. This is Matt LaFleur, who came in to replace you and took over and beat you in a playoff game. That's a double whammy right there, and that for a lot of Cowboy fans is like, you don't get 3 strikes, you get 2, and those are the 2 strikes. You couldn't lose to the Packers, not only because they're weaker than you, but also because that's your former team and the guy that replaced you. You got to beat the guy that replaced you with the team that's clearly better than them on paper. But it's pretty clear that Green Bay had the better edge because maybe they have the better coach. Just food for thought there. But all right, let's talk on the Bears here really quick. So Eberflus is staying. Not my ideal choice of a hire anyways when I was a Bears fan. Now being just kind of the football fan itself. Still not an ideal keep, I would say, by any means. My mind is you clean house, you start over again, you add everything in there. Again, I understand where I think Ryan Poles might be coming from in terms of let's keep consistency here. We have a little bit level of control, at least on the defensive side of things. And a lot of defensive players are swearing by him, saying he's the guy. Totally understand where players are coming from. I was one of those guys, too, that's like, hey, I got a coach that I trust in, I believe in, I'm with him, right? Maybe I don't always like him, but I'll trust in him if he gets it done. My question is, though, does the offense feel the same way, too? Because I've not heard a lot from the offensive side. Maybe they have. I just haven't heard a guy like DJ Moore or Justin Fields or any of these guys kind of really come out and be like, yeah, he's the coach. Maybe I'm missing that. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the defense is the one that's kind of pouring more of the energy into, like, if Eberflus is the man. So
you have to think about it like this. Eberflus is the defensive play caller.
Right.
He's not really not to say he's not looking at the offense, but he is more defensive minded. So you're going to hear it more from the defense. The offense also has problems with, they have to try to keep Justin Fields. They're promoting more Justin Fields because that's the problem with the offense is what's going on there.
Right.
But the Eberflus decision, as a fan, I'm actually not too mad that they kept them because Ryan Poles has a plan that he set out from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a minute for plans. When he took over the Bears, they were in such a low point. It takes a minute. I mean, I think the problem with the NFL is we don't give coaches enough time to let their plan come out. And in Eberflus's case, yes, there are glaring holes, but there's also a lot of promise. And you saw it especially in the second half of the season. It goes under the radar that the Bears were tied first in the NFL with 22 interceptions and had the best run defense. So there's definitely highs in his coaching. There's also lows. He doesn't have the wins. The offense looks bad, but it takes a minute to get the plan going. We see it in the NFL. I mean, we've talked about it. We see it in other sports too, where I feel like they give up on coaches too quickly in 1 to 2 seasons. If you're not seeing success, they just cut it off right then and there. 3 years, after 3 years is like the good time to say, all right, is this guy working, yes or no? Which, if you look at the Bears from year 1 to 2, it is a clear improvement based on record, how good the defense played. So there is that way to look at it as a Bears fan and looking at it from the outside.
Sure. No, I mean, I understand that whole be patient and give a chance, and I listen. I used to think that way myself many a times, and it's not to say that you shouldn't, and you shouldn't possibly give them a chance to be able to be who they are and express themselves and show what they can do. I just don't know if. It's hard to give coaches more chances now because there's obviously more money being poured into the sport than ever, right? We don't have guys that are 100 millionaires that are owners now. We have billionaires who are willing to say, listen, I've got money to burn. I've got this team, this organization that makes me money hand over foot. I don't need to worry about if this coach isn't working, I'm going to fire him on the spot. Because I don't feel like he's the right guy, I want him gone, I'm going to tell the GM to get rid of him, or the GM makes the decision on, hey, do you want to keep him or don't you want to keep him? Because right now, Ryan Poles' reputation is now on the line. You keep Matt Eberflus, your reputation is now being put on the table for everybody to judge. On that, too, we talked about this. I'm not going to get into all quarterback and stuff. We'll get into that on another time. But obviously, you keep Justin, that's doubling down on your reputation. So if it works, you're going to get the great extension. You're going to look like the genius that obviously got it to work. If you don't make the playoffs, though, by this point, because this is what it's saying, right? Matt Eberflus is a playoff contending coach. We are not far off. We are going to make it. He's the guy that can get us there. They have the number one rushing defense. They were one of the best pass rushing defenses towards the end of the season here in the second half. So you have to recognize that. I just don't know if he has the ultimate control and has integrated something into that team that you can say is their identity. That's a culture that is going to take them from here and get them there. You know what I mean? There's just a lot that I feel like is a giant question mark still with him. Could it be solved maybe by this next season? It's very possible. It just all of his mannerisms read to a level of a guy that I would say, you know what? He's probably better off being the defensive coordinator. You're probably better off maybe finding somebody else who you can start over fresh with that can implement something different for this team, because it just feels like it's more of the same. It feels like it's 1985, 2006, 1921. It just feels like the Bears are going back to that defensive mindset, stamping it down on the ground. We're going to be the tough guys, the bullies, the big men on campus. And is that really what you want to go for? Because you've been doing that for years, and it got you to 2 Super Bowls, and you won one of them, but that was in 85 when it actually still counted for something.
I don't think that's the best way to look at it. As someone who watches every single Bears press conference, I don't think going off his what he says and his manners.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not just going off that.
He's not the greatest media trained person.
He's terrible.
Not a media
He's a mediocre average coach when it comes to the media and stuff. But I'm not judging him off of that by any means. I'm judging him off of what I'm seeing on the field as far as a coach goes. Because guess what? As a head coach, you are going to get judged on both sides of the ball because you're in charge of the entire thing. So while you get an A+ for the offense, you're getting like a D- or an F for the offense at this point. So you get an A for the defense, you get like a D- for the offense. Like it's just not showing. It's too inconsistent.
I mean, to be fair, the Bears were one game from being the same record as the Packers, and look at where they're at.
Oh, sure.
In the playoffs, and they just beat the Cowboys. You got to look at it like that. Look at what the Bears were last year. 3 wins, going to 7. That's a clear improvement. They were 1 game away from being the same record as the Packers, which is always the comparison in Chicago.
Right.
How good are you compared to the Packers? There were only a 1-game difference. Obviously, both teams looked very drastic.
Sure.
But at face value, that way, you look into it deeper. The defense was really good. The offense wasn't, but Eberflus doesn't really run the defense. We mentioned that. It in the way of how this Bears team is, it depends on how you look at it, where you see success and where you see failure.
Yeah. No,
So it's a very touchy subject because there's clear pros and cons for both sides. I think that's a big reason why I'm okay with Matt Eberflus saying.
No, and I understand that completely. I also will just put this out there too, right? Because if this is Ryan Poles hiring the new OC, if that's what this is going to be, I would say I'd have an issue with this because if you're the head coach, you would want to hire the guy for your coaching staff. Meanwhile, your GM is kind of saying, well, you didn't do a good job hiring the guy before, so I'm going to take control of this now, and I'm going to hire the guy. So you better hope that the guy he's hiring is going to be able to connect with you on that level or not. And that's the hard thing, right? How is that chemistry and connection going to work? What's the hierarchy going to be between GM, offensive coordinator, and head coach? That's the problem I see right now for the Bears that's also standing in their way. But we'll see how the season goes. There's a lot that's going to be coming down on this, folks. Let us know what you think. Do you think the Bears have made the right move? Do you think Dallas made the right move? What do you think about Belichick, Saban, the other coaching hirings, firings that have happened in college and the NFL? Let us know in the comment section down below. When we come back, though, folks, we're going to get into the playoffs. We're going to talk a lot about what's been going down in playoff town. And then, of course, we're going to do our pick six. That's coming next here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
The Chicagoland area has a large number of lonely dogs currently filling shelter pens, just waiting to find a family. Nothing adds warmth to a home like a wagging tail and a warm pair of brown eyes. If you are considering adding a dog to your household, visit the Anderson Animal Shelter, where adoption counselors can assist you in selecting your new best friend. Make your house a home. Adopt a shelter dog. To see a current list of adoptees, visit their website at www.andersonanimalshelter.org or meet them in person at 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin. Don't have room in the home for a new furry family member? Donations of toys, collars, and soft or hard non-perishable dog food are always accepted and are greatly appreciated. All animals are spayed or neutered and are waiting with tails wagging to find a loving home. Visit 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin or www.andersonanimalshelter.org for more details.
Hey, watch your mouth. Why? I'll just put a quarter in the swear jar. Once it's filled, we get a Coors party after work.
I've been drinking Coors since my college days. The cold draft taste, second to none.
Yeah, worth the recorder, am I right?
You know it, mother.
Hey, you get those reports done?
Yeah. No. You, sir.
Attention, employees.
The staff meeting, scheduled for this evening, will now be held tomorrow early as
Who's all? Dudes, we're only 75 cents short. Oh, shh. The boss.
Hey, sir. Go yourself.
You're fired!
Yeah!
welcome everybody back here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. I'm still hanging out here with the crew. Got Scotty, got Bjorn back there as well. Also got Julius and Jessica. They're hanging out off camera as well, ladies and gents. We just got done talking about the NFL and the coaching carousel and obviously Nick Saban retiring and all that good stuff. Now we're going to get into the NFL playoffs. We're going to recap on these, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do just a quick one on these. Don't worry. We won't pour too much into it because, my goodness, these playoffs were very shocking, of course. And we're going to kick this one off more so with the NFC least. That's what I want to call them, NFC least, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to the NFC East, you know, we look at these teams like, obviously we talked a lot about Dallas. We talked a lot about, you know, their troubles and everything. But Dallas lost to the Green Bay Packers, you know, 48-32. And then you get the Philadelphia Eagles, who most of us would have thought, man, Tampa doesn't stand a chance. But we were wrong. We were wrong, yes, as the thunder rolls above us. Apparently we made the Philly gods mad because the Philadelphia Eagles lost 32-9 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I'm not saying the NFC East is terrible. But it's probably not as good as maybe we thought it was going to be. Now, both teams obviously have a lot of questions, right? I mean, Mike McCarthy's staying in Dallas. We know that. They're going to have a lot of roster questions. We kind of already went over that. So let's put more of the focus right now on Philadelphia because there is a giant call from the fan bases to say that Nick Sirianni, yeah, it's Nick S., that's why. Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, there's a giant outcry for him to be fired, right? Because they were unable to get to the second round, at least of the playoffs, get to the divisional round. They couldn't even win the division. They were 1-6, I believe, or 1-5 in their last 6 games. It was terrible how bad they were playing at the very end. They were in some games, but they were not completely there altogether. Is Philly in trouble long term? Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Maybe. They're going to have a lot of decision-making moments to come about too, right? I mean, it sounds like A.J. Brown's upset. They got to figure out what to do with Devonta Smith and how they're going to pay him potentially. They have an offensive line that's starting to age. They have a defense that they're going to have to make a lot of judgment calls on too, who have older players as well. There are a litany of questions going on in Philadelphia, but I'll ask the big question to you, obviously, Scotty. Nick Sirianni and his future with the Philadelphia Eagles. From your perspective, full biases away, love him or hate him on the Eagles, what do you see Philadelphia potentially doing with Nick Sirianni on their level? What do you see them doing, and then what do you think they should do?
What was I talking about when we were talking about coaches? I said there was a little bit of an overreaction in the short term. I think Philly fans in specifically forget that Nick Sirianni got them to the Super Bowl last year. Okay? They also were like a minute away with a tie game in the Super Bowl. At what point this year you were 10-1? I think a lot of the problems have to go with inside that locker room. Look at A.J. Brown as a prime example. You alluded to it there. Mm-hmm. In Week 18, doesn't have Eagles and is any associated to him.
Yeah.
I think he was healthy.
I think that's more petty stuff.
I think he was healthy and just was like, no, I'm not playing because he's might be a little bit of a cancer in the locker room.
Could be.
I think these are the questions that need to be asked. Not, is Nick Sirianni the guy who took us to the Super Bowl and, got us to first place in the NFC East this year? Is he the coach? Is Jalen Hurts the quarterback of the future? Yeah, the guy who at one point this year was an MVP candidate, also got you to the Super Bowl last year, was still performing even in games where they were losing. Yes, he did look pretty bad, but these are not the right questions you're asking if you're Eagles fans. It's a little bit of an overreaction Monday, but every single day for an Eagles fan.
That's fair. I don't think Nick Sirianni is really the problem, but I don't think he's also the solution either, right? Like, he's not exactly helping the Eagles solve what's going on with that team. I think in terms of what he is as a coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's just managing the sales. He's not captaining the ship, right? That goes to guys like Jalen Hurts, and that goes to guys like Darius Slay, right? Guys that should be the leaders on the team, should be the ones taking the helm on this ship and kind of riding it out. Because Nick Sirianni has never really come off as the guy that's like, I'm going to get the team to rally around me, and my speeches are going to be what power this team. He's always kind of just been like the best guy I could compare him to would maybe be like Tom Flores. For those who don't know, Scotty's got no idea who that is.
That's rude.
Do you know who Tom Flores is?
I mean, ish.
Okay,
ish.
so-
not entirely, but
so-
like, wow.
You're young. What do you want from me? So for those who don't know, Tom Flores was the coach of the Raiders teams that won 2 Super Bowls in the 80s when they were Oakland in 1980, and then they won in 1983 when they were Los Angeles. He was very matter of fact. He didn't give big speeches. He wasn't really a rah-rah guy. He was very quiet, very kind of calm. But he did get the best out of his teams because there was always that proven confidence in, I believe in you guys. I mean, their playbook, I think they said, was only about 20 plays long with their offense. They didn't have a lot. They didn't do a lot. They weren't truly fancy. But they won because they all believed in each other. They all were in camaraderie. And then I don't think this Eagles – I agree with you. I don't think this Eagles team has it, right? And A.J. Brown, I think, is just the biggest name that reflects that. Because I'm betting anything, probably Fletcher Cox is probably feeling pretty upset. Lane Johnson's probably upset. I know he's hurt, but I'm sure he's probably upset. There's a lot of guys, I think, on that team that are like, I love Philly, and I love what it's done to me, but I think this team was not as together. Like, ask Jason Kelce, who probably could still be playing, but he has decided to retire.
Whoa. First off, he hasn't decided to retire yet.
Well, he's announced he's retiring via the social media, so it's not official until he puts in the paperwork.
Yeah, it's
It's an unofficial retiring.
Yes.
Let's call it that.
He basically was just like, yeah, I didn't say I'm retiring, but I'm probably going to.
Yeah, he's
He
like an
hasn't,
80-20
fully
kind of
decided
thing.
it yet.
Right.
I think a better comparison is a coach like Kevin O'Connell in the Vikings.
That's another one.
Kind of playing off of what he more so has, not really being a huge vocal leader. I mean, look at what he lets Kirk Cousins basically do whatever. I think Matt LaFleur is a good comparison as well. He let Aaron Rodgers do whatever. Isn't really, bringing everyone together, but going with what he has right there.
Right.
In Green Bay. Those type of guys are good comparisons. They're not like Bill Belichick's, Nick Saban's that are like, run what I'm doing.
But I would say
that kind of
the
thing.
differences between those guys and then Sirianni is that with Kevin O'Connell and like Matt LaFleur, they're bringing in the offense, right?
Yeah.
You know what they're bringing to the table. Nick Sirianni, it's not that he doesn't bring anything to the table. It's just kind of like, well, he's not really – he's an offensive guy, but he's not really managing the offense. He's not calling plays. He's not a defensive guy either. He's never worked on the defensive side of the ball. So what is he really in terms of everything? He's just kind of a manager. So, but I agree with you. I think a lot of this, I think, with Philly has more to do with the internal distrust and maybe disinterest from the team on we're losing games, we're not winning, we're not going to win. It's not in our cards right now. Guys are hurt that we need to get back here, and who knows if they will be back. I mean, what are they without Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, and possibly if A.J. Brown were to leave, what would they be without those, right? What would they be?
What a career for Jason Kelce. When he was drafted by the Eagles, they spelled his name with a Y.
Yeah.
And he was a 3-time Pro Bowler. He got the 1 Super Bowl. Maybe he should have had 2. It would have been better if he had 2. But you're talking about one of the best centers in NFL history.
You're talking about a guy that came in that was, out of Cincinnati. Not a lot of people really thought much of him because he was a little bit light for a center at the time. But clearly very good, very maneuverable, very smart. I mean, listen, if he's not going to play anymore, he's got a hell of a career being a broadcast analyst and everything within the league.
Real
what we
quickly,
got?
I got some breaking news.
Okay.
The Raiders are finalizing a deal to hire Antonio Pierce as their head coach.
Good for you.
Good for him. We talked about this off. I said sticking with Antonio Pierce is the best decision the Raiders can do.
Well, listen, how many more times do you want to keep going to the well of, we'll hire another coach after we've clearly won with guys that have been interim coaches before? I'm happy for Antonio Pierce. It's obviously and here's the thing, though, too. Mark Davis is a guy who likes to listen to the locker room. And for better or for worse, they believe that this is going to work. It did seem to work at the end here, so credit where credit is due to Antonio Pierce. I think he has certainly earned the job. Now it's you got to keep the job. Because Mark Davis is not a guy we know who's afraid to fire guys. We know that. His dad was that way. Mark Davis is that way. I think Pierce has done enough to obviously earn the contract. I think the players really like him and support him. I'm all in for it. I'd love to see him do something cool with the Raiders, but you got to win. Like now you got to win. You got to win.
Some players are openly talking about it. Devontae Adams saying he embodies what it means to be a Raider and that mentality. Max Crosby apparently was going to request a trade if he wasn't the head coach.
Yep.
There's only 32 head coaches in the whole world, so you got to find a leader of men. And when you know you've got one in the building, I don't know why you would let them go. That's Max Crosby.
Yeah.
And even Josh Jacobs, who, we may question his time there if he's going to be staying, but he goes with AP. I am definitely 100% in. So, I feel like
Sounds like a guy who's willing to take whatever he can get.
Oh yeah, sorry to just hijack there, but
No. That's
we were
fine.
talking about the coaches
Yeah.
earlier. That's a big move.
That's you know what? It's good because then that means the pressure's on then for. I mean, we didn't even talk about Jim Harbaugh, right? I mean, that means that Jim Harbaugh's off the table for the Raiders. So somebody's gonna either if they're not pulling the trigger on that, then guess what? He's going to Michigan and making a bundle.
No, I've heard a lot of rumors that he's really close to signing with the Chargers.
They seem to love him. So, but the
that-
Chargers are interviewing everybody. They have no choice. They have to talk to everybody. They have no. I mean, they just talked to Jeff King, the assistant of player personnel for Chicago, former tight end for the Carolina Panthers. So they got to talk to everybody about everything at this point. That team might be more of a mess than we think, folks. Truly.
Oh, the Chargers?
Yeah,
Really? The
yeah.
team that choked
I know.
a 35-28-7 lead in the playoffs?
That's
against
that's.
Jacksonville? You think that there's problems there, Andrew?
Well,
How could you say that?
I think it's kind of in the same vein as like Chicago, where it's the Spanos family that's more the problem, and it trickles down towards the top.
You.
So
Put the
I know they're an
camera
issue.
on me.
Don't
Put the
get
camera on me. I hate
Yeah.
Dean Spanos. Calm your. Come on. Why'd you move the team from San Diego?
At least he's not Tepper throwing beers at fans.
I hate Dean Spanos. I hate Dean Spanos.
Not even your team, and you're all upset.
I hate Dean Spanos.
All right. Well, away from that, obviously
Let's go to my team.
on the other side. Oh, your team. Wow.
Go to
Well.
my second team.
Okay. Yeah. All black and buffaloed is how it was. Steelers. They tried, but bless their hearts, which is Southern talk for, man, that was garbage. Bless their hearts, but they didn't stand a chance. Josh Allen is that quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you have to say. He is that quarterback. He gets it done. He's got that talent. I'm amazed by what he's able to do. I think this is a team that you have to think about again as being potential Super Bowl contenders. They're it. They're here. They've got that wonderment. I like them. I like him a lot. The way that he played in this game, fantastic. I'm excited for Josh Allen, and I'm excited for this Bills team. I mean, and they played simple football too, folks. Like, they didn't play anything complicated. Work the tight ends, let the receivers get yards after the catch, and who knew that Cook had the ability to run the football? Who knew? Obviously, Josh knew, and Josh did run the football pretty well there for was it like 52 yards or whatever it was he ran for?
52-yard touchdown. Can I
Yeah.
ask you a quick question? Because it's been going around on
Please.
social media.
By all means.
Josh Allen is accused of fake sliding on his touchdown run.
Oh, yes.
Looking back on it,
Mm-hmm.
can you give me your opinion on it?
I think it was a fake slide by accident, if you will, which is kind of that's the same thing as when you hear the Olympic athletes who are like they got an inadvertent positive, which just means nothing because it's still a positive, but it's like, oh, but it wasn't supposed to happen. Like, that's kind of what it was. It was still a fake slide, I think, but he didn't mean to do it is what I'm trying to say.
Can I be honest? I watch Josh Allen every Sunday.
Yeah.
It's not a fake slide. It's just the way he runs.
He's just big and
6
awkward,
foot-
and
he's 6'6". If he goes for a juke move, he almost falls over.
right. Well,
You
and
know,
that's
it's
he's
not a
big,
fake
he's
slide.
awkward, he's lungry,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. Like, he's not gonna hit the ground perfectly. He needs to learn how to do it, but
I mean, I kind of saw something on Twitter, and I quote tweeted it on my Twitter, Scotty KO3. But anyways, someone put together a 5-minute compilation of all of Josh Allen's fake slide.
yeah.
I watched the whole thing, and I tweeted back, and I go, I don't see a single fake slide. When I hear fake slide, I think Kenny Pickett.
Well,
What he
yeah,
did
that's
at
the
Pitt.
image that everybody has in
But
their mind of what a fake
What
fake
Josh
slide
Allen
is.
does, it's not a fake slide.
No.
He's just a tall dude, and he's got to get low for a juke move to kind of juke out a defender.
Well, yeah, he's big, he's burly. It's what happens when you're that kind of a quarterback. And regardless, fake slide or not, they had that game in hand. No matter what you want to say, I'm not saying Mike Tomlin should be fired, but is his seat starting to get a little hot? I think so. I definitely. He did a great coaching job this year. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, fabulous coach!
Did a fabulous job.
He had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Yeah.
And made the postseason.
Yeah. It's just when he got to the postseason, that's kind of where they certainly got exposed.
I read a stat today that's 23 of the NFL teams in the NFL have won a playoff game in the time since Mike Tomlin's last playoff.
It's been a long time, man. It has been a long time, and
Hey, he's got the record of never being a losing season though. Gotta keep that up, baby.
hey, that's fine. But your last Super Bowl win was 2008. Your last Super Bowl appearance was 2010. Like, you're going now over a decade without getting to the Super Bowl now. Like, again, I'm not saying fire him, but his seat is he's starting to feel the embers, I think, underneath him. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's going to be recognized as one of the best coaches of his time and of this decade and of the last 20 years and all that stuff. But I mean, at some point, like, he's kind of that Belichick guy too, right? He thinks a lot of old school. What keeps him going, though, is that he can always reflect back down to the players, and that's what keeps him connected. So I don't know. I think his time will eventually come up, and I think it may be sooner than later, unless they can get this quarterback thing right. And guess what? Their defense is also loaded with money, so they're going to have to start shedding off some of that money too, because they're in salary cap hell too. They've got money issues as well, and they got to figure that out.
I think the problem with him is, and the Steelers, I would say, is ever since about 2018, 2016 maybe, in that kind of time frame, they haven't had a real good quarterback. That's including Ben Roethlisberger. The back half of Ben Roethlisberger's career.
Ben
not
Roethlisberger
great.
on that back half, he was drinking beers and eating steaks and hamburgers most of the time on his off season. Like, he wasn't working out.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And I think that's the problem, is the personnel who the general manager is bringing in to be at the quarterback position. Which 3 quarterbacks did I just run through?
Yeah.
I don't think any of them would start on any other team in the NFL.
Not at this point.
So I think that's a big telling with the Steelers, is the players that Mike Tomlin has not been the best. So I give him that entirely. I think that's my reason why Mike Tomlin isn't really on the hot seat, is because he hasn't really had the player personnel like other teams. The revolving door at quarterback isn't really his fault, and even the guys that are coming through the door, not special. Not special at all.
No, they're not. Well, and listen, it's a quarterback-driven league. It has been for a long time, and it will continue to be that way until severe changes are made. So at this point, you got to get a quarterback. Steelers need to do it. Really got to think about taking one maybe in this draft, finding one somewhere. Seriously. All right, well, outside of the Buffalo Steelers situation, just to note it real quick, Detroit, you are free of the burdens. You are no longer accustomed to being one of the worst teams in the NFL. You are now one of the best teams in the NFL as of this year because after 32 years of woes and downfalls and downtrodden, they are finally playoff winners again. They have won their playoff game. They are going to the next round. Detroit beating a close one to the Rams 24-23. I mean, absolutely wonderful. Very happy for them. Just a tremendous game played all the way through. Defense would have been nice at the end, but obviously the Rams find a way to always come back. That's Sean McVay. They will always find a way to stay in the game. But I guess two questions I'll shoot to you, Scotty, to kind of keep this one quick, if we will. But for you, seeing the Lions get this first playoff win, what does that mean for you with the Lions going forward? And then for the Rams losing this playoff game, obviously great season for them, but they lose this playoff game. Where do you see the future of the Rams? Because they have a lot of questions now standing in their way as well. What do you think for the two teams?
I think the Rams, the situation is just, you haven't been able to build a big team because you're bought in for that Super Bowl. You got it, though. Now you're starting to see the consequences of buying in so hard. I think they're on the right track. I think they may have overperformed this year. So now they're in this state of limbo. I feel like if they missed the playoffs, we would have had completely different talks. Like, all right, they're starting to build themselves back up again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes next year the real big question. Aaron Donald, it seems like every season has rumors that he's going to retire. Same thing with Stafford. Maybe start looking for the new look Rams to start coming in. I don't think we're completely there yet.
Yeah.
As for the Lions, I will always remember where I was when the Lions finally won a playoff game. I kind of like it as an NFC North fan.
Sure.
I was
They
looking
rep
all
the
over
division.
Twitter. Yeah, I was looking all over Twitter. Every Vikings fan account, like Bears fan I saw was just like, you gotta feel good for Detroit here.
I mean, are you old enough to remember the 2008 0-16 season by any chance, Scotty?
I mean, I went back to all that. I remember it.
Okay, you're
like-
young again. I gotta
Well, no,
check.
'cause
I
here's
gotta
the thing.
check.
I understand it, but with me, I go back to look at all of this.
Yeah.
So like, I'm well versed all the way back to like 1990, probably. I can
Okay.
remember stuff.
I mean,
'Cause
listen.
I just went back to it all.
Right.
But I mean, Tanner Orlovsky going out the back of the end zone kind of sums up where the Lions were as a franchise.
No, absolutely. Well, I
So-
mean, that their whole thing goes back to that Bobby Lane curse. For those that don't remember, Bobby Lane, quarterback in the '60s, traded to the Steelers. Yeah, I'm trying to make Scotty feel real out of date on this one. No, but I mean,
I know the Bobby Lane curse.
I was
man.
gonna say
Come
you should
on.
know this stuff. You're a sports fan, for God's sakes. Don't make me come over there.
Babe Ruth got sold to the Yankees to promote a play.
All right. Well, you don't have to make me feel that old, dude. All right, Jesus. How old do you think I don't have gray in my hair. What are you talking about? No, it's
only gray here is on their jerseys.
there you go.
All
Yes.
right?
I'm really happy for the Lions. I am, because obviously, listen, they are the organization that I think, if you want to say they were down and out, but they did it the right way, because Cleveland, people are like, well, when Cleveland's there, don't you want to feel happy for them? No, because of what the whole Watson thing just taints it all.
I mean,
And the Haslams are they're not good owners. They're not good owners. The Lions ownership, they want this team to be good. They want the city to have something to represent, because they don't have basketball. The Pistons are terrible. The baseball team is just garbage.
Yeah,
And
but they
the
got
hockey
Nicky.
team's okay.
Well,
For those that don't, if you didn't hear that, this is our man Bijor saying, I almost forgot they had a baseball team. That is beautiful, man. I love that. It's great. It's great.
I mean,
Detroit. Yeah, we got sports teams, I think, maybe.
dude, they moved out of the Joe.
It's true, yeah, they did.
The downfall of Detroit was right there. They lost the Joe.
Listen, I'll tell you right now, the Pistons never should have gotten rid of the Palace.
Nah.
That was the problem, man. And I get it, like the Palace was broken and everything, like you had to move into a new home, but like they were winning there, like they won the title there in 04. You can't that magic is just gone, and now the Lions are sucking it all the way like Thanos, just sacrificing these teams. Just like, yeah, what did it cost? Every sports team in Detroit took their souls, their power, everything.
Can't have anything in Detroit.
They took all those teams and they just threw them down that hole or whatever it is. They just were like, yep, but the thing is, they didn't even think a moment. Like, it was one of those things where he's like looking back, like Thanos is looking back, like, I have to kill my daughter. No, they were just like, if you have to sacrifice somebody if you want. And they're like, deal, here, take them all. They're all going down.
A soul for a soul. And
Exactly.
It was Detroit.
Here, take 3 of them. Take them all. We
Take
want.
Michigan while you're at it.
Yeah.
They struggled for a while.
Right, here. Oh, they just won a championship. Here, take their soul too. Screw it. Here's Michigan State. No, you can keep that. You can keep that. We don't want that. Okay.
I think going back to what you were talking about, the difference between why we support Detroit, not Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, yeah, they were really bad. They made some.
This isn't the
decisions
same
going with
Cleveland team,
Baker.
though, that's won
Yeah,
championships. That's
I
the
mean,
thing. This
yeah.
is the new Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, this is the new Cleveland that got the second coming of Bill Cosby to be their quarterback. But anyways, going to Detroit, they're taking kneecaps. They're taking kneecaps,
Yeah.
man. They're going for it all. They're going for the North. They got it. You got to feel good about Detroit.
Right, yeah. No, they are the feel-good story, I would say, of the year. I mean, if Dan Campbell or DeMeco Ryans should be winning, I would say, Coach of the Year.
I would say
Easily.
DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah,
more
no,
so,
I think
but,
DeMeco Ryans
yeah.
will win it, but they should be the two, I would say, that are like the front runners, because what Dan Campbell has done and the fact that he didn't get fired, like you said, patience. But here's the thing, though. Remember, Dan Campbell instilled a culture from the get-go. He said, we're going to be the fighters. We're going to be kneecap biters. We're going to be everything that we need to be to beat teams down. And Kirby Joseph almost took that to a T because he took out Tyler Higbee's knee. Bad move, by the way, man.
Okay, wow.
Bad move. Man. Hey, man, I know Tyler Higbee, okay? He's a good dude. He's a good dude. He's a nice dude. It sucks seeing him go down. So, but good for the Lions. Congratulations to them.
Hey, and Matthew Stafford was there to support it.
That's true. Retire. Man, your body can't take it. Just admit it. Your body can't take it.
We'll get more into the Lions when we go through the
Yeah,
Pick
absolutely.
Six and
Well,
stuff, so.
folks, that's going to do it for the playoff recap. When we come back, we're going to do it real quick. It's going to be playoff Pick 6 edition. That's coming up next here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
Man, I'm so hungry. I need somewhere to eat fast. I have no idea where to go.
Hola, me llamo El Taco de Taco. You know where to go for the amazing taste that I have you craving more? Taco Bell.
All right, can I get 20 tacos, please?
You got it.
Thanks, Taco.
De nada.
Good. That's it. Eat the tacos.
Taco Bell. Live más.
Wear your best attitude. Feel the power. Run towards your goals. Make each footprint count. Believe in yourself. Mark the difference. Just do it.
Celsius, the fastest growing energy drink in America. 0 sugar, low calories, and 200 milligrams of caffeine. Celsius is the ideal drink for anyone who wants to get the most out of their day. 4 distinct flavors: orange, kiwi guava, wild berry, white peach. Drinking Celsius prior to fitness activities has proven to accelerate your metabolism, burn body fat, and provide essential energy. Celsius. Live fit. The official drink of Chad Podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you all are still having a wonderful day watching us on YouTube and Twitch, and apparently not Facebook. We're gonna have some words, Facebook. Believe me on that.
Come on, Zuck.
As you guys know, this is not the first time we've had issues with them, and it will probably not be the last. So, but ladies and gentlemen, we just got done talking about NFL coaches, college coaches. We got done talking about the playoffs. It's time. We're gonna do this really quickly so we can all get out of here and go eat some food because my stomach is rumbling, as you can hear all around us. It is time for the Pick Six Playoff Edition. Now, we no longer have 6 games to pick from. We only have 4 games to pick from. So we are going to make these 4 picks. We're going to let you know what we think, who we think's winning, how this thing's going to go. You ready to get into this, amigos?
Absolutely. Andrew, I forgot to tell you that the graphic for the football, for NFL, is not, I don't know why I don't have it, but the standings are pretty good. We did pretty good last week. I think all of us basically went like 4-2 or something like that.
Okay. All right.
Something like that.
Okay.
You know?
That's
I
fine.
think that's about where we were all at.
Cool. So Facebook's just destroying us all completely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Unbelievable. All right. Well, we'll see if we can ever get back on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Here we are, the Pick Six, and we're kicking this one off with Houston at Baltimore. Baltimore is the favorite right now by 9 points. The over-under is at 43.5. Baltimore, obviously, better team by the record, but obviously Houston, they played extremely well in that game in the playoffs. I mean, they looked fantastic. Their quarterback didn't even play the fourth quarter, for crying out loud. So, Scott, Baltimore, Houston, who are you picking on this one?
I've been on Houston all year, but at some point, I mean, it's got to come to an end, and I think the Ravens are just that wall that they're going to hit. Mm-hmm. The Ravens, I mean, they're also getting Mark Andrews back. He might be a little limited, but he'll be back. He definitely makes a huge difference. I feel like this is a closer game that a lot of people are anticipating. I know the books are saying that basically Texans at minus 9.5, which I think is where it is at now, or at plus 9.5. Is basically free, so they're looking to make a lot of money off that. So be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to go Ravens on this one. They're just the all-around better team, and I think the Cinderella run for the Texans is about done.
Okay. Baltimore's a really good team. They have been for a while here. They played really well. They have, 10 wins against teams that are above 500, I think it was I saw, right? It's very impressive. Man. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Houston. I like their swagger. I like the youth that they have on that team. I like their connection. I think DeMeco Ryans is coming in hungry. It very much feels like the same team we saw with Tennessee when Baltimore was 14-2, and Tennessee kind of came in there and showed up, right? I mean, they controlled the game, and I think Houston has the ability to control that game and control the clock, and I would not be shocked if we saw Houston keep this one close with Baltimore. Baltimore could easily win this game, of course, but I think Houston will make it a match, and I'm going to go with Houston on it I'm going to say by 3, keep it close to like a field goal difference kind of thing. I'm going to say the under, though, because what I've learned is that every game that Lamar's played in the playoffs has hit the under. So,
really?
Yeah, I found that stat. I believe it was Barstool Sports, I think, that put it out there. Yeah,
well,
every
also,
playoff game
it's
he's
snowy. So.
Right, yeah, and that's the other thing is that this is in Baltimore, right? So keep that in mind. The weather's going to be there. So Houston, more of the reason why Houston's probably getting points away from them. But I don't know. I still like the way that Houston has played. Like, they're not a running team necessarily, but they will dink and dime it under and over the field as much as they need to win the game. So I'll take Houston on it. Houston by 3. I'll take on the under. All right, next we've got Green Bay at San Francisco.
Battle of the two teams who kind of have the same logo.
Yeah, more
same looking logo.
something like that. Yeah. By the way, talking about people who are getting copyrighted and suspended, my school actually got a nice little letter once from the Green Bay Packers years ago for using their G.
Really?
Yeah, Glenbard North uses the G that the Green Bay Packers do. But so does, like, 30 other teams in the country, one of them being Bishop Gorman, who's one of the biggest high schools in the country.
Well, they can't take them down because they're so big.
Yeah, of course. My high school, though, the hell with us. Like, I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but, like, come on, Green Bay. Really? Like, it's that big of a deal?
My high school got the Eagle logo taken away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I was there, the last year, they had to change the logo because
that's right. You went to
Carl Sandburg.
Yes.
Sandburg was taking. Apparently, they weren't stealing from the Eagles. They were taking from another high school, and not the Eagles. So the Eagles sent them a letter, and I was like, gotta change it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, we got something in common with high schools there. But back to the game.
NFL teams are just money grubbing greeters.
Really?
49ers are favored big time in this game. Scotty, Niners, Packers. Who are you picking on this one?
Niners. I don't really love the spread there. I think the Packers can keep it close, but I'm going to go Niners. I do like the over in this game of 50. I think this could be a very high-scoring game, but 49ers, the 2-1 seeds, I feel like are going to wrap up this week.
Okay, I like it. I'm going with you right there. 49ers, I like them. Packers are good. They're young. I think that you're right. They can stay with them. I'll say 49ers by 6. Keep it in kind of close. But I think they'll probably have like at least a good double-digit lead at the half. Packers make the adjustment. They come back. But the Niners, they'll be able to hold out. Brock Purdy's played well enough. But that's the thing, too, right, is that you got to be careful with what Brock – because this is kind of that moment where it's like, well, he got hurt here, right? And it's like, yeah, he did. So just, lightning doesn't always strike twice, but it can. Sometimes it can. So keep your quarterback healthy, and I think the Niners will be A-okay. They'll win this one by 6, and I'll say it hits the over. I think they got enough firepower on both sides to hit the over. All right, next we've got Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit is right now almost touchdown favorites. The over-under's at 48.5. Scotty, Lions keep the run going, or can Tampa be the world beaters? Kind of almost in the same way, kind of the other side of the Tennessee Titans, if you will.
You know what I think is going to be a huge factor in this game? I think the weather's going to be a huge factor in this game, and they got Todd Bowles has to, really adjust for that.
Shut up.
Did you not?
No, I know what you're talking about because trust me, everybody sent me that clip. Like, did you hear what the reporter said? And
if you don't have any clue, basically, the Lions have played in a dome since my grandpa was born, and for some reason, a reporter decided to ask, how is the cold weather in Detroit going to affect your team? And he's like, they play in a dome. It doesn't affect us at all. It's like, come on. Do better journalism.
Yeah. All you have to do is Google.
Yeah.
Crying out loud.
I mean,
it's Ford Field. Oh,
Ford Field is the only nice thing in Detroit, okay?
I want to clarify because maybe this is why Facebook took us down. We do love Detroit. We do. Don't kick us off of anything else because we're talking crap on Detroit.
Anyways.
Not our fault your teams suck. Just doubling down at this point. I'm already suspended. What are they going to do to me? What are you going to do?
YouTube's coming after us now.
Stop talking.
Susan's not there anymore.
No, she's not.
Anyways, I'm going to take the Lions on this. I'm surprised that they're actually that high in front. I think the Buccaneers are going to keep this one close. I think this is going to be a really good matchup between who's going to play better, Mike Evans or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Gotta respect Baker Mayfield as well.
Yeah.
What he's doing is basically what he thought he would be doing, but in Cleveland. Very impressed by him this year. It's a good way to build your team for next season, but I got to go with the Lions on this one. I think they're the better all-around team.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to go with the Lions too. Personally, I'm not going to get too much into this. We're not going to make this a big discussion. I'm just going to preference this for a later date. I think Tampa's going to give Baker that big contract like they did Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, and I think that's going to be a bit of a mistake.
Whoa!
We'll save that for future talk. Trust
Basically
me.
Next week.
It could be. We'll see. I like Detroit, though. I like the way they play. I think they've got a good culture. Tampa's still trying to figure things out. And not only that, they still have a lot of questions, and I think that's kind of hanging over their heads a little bit. I think Detroit's going to take advantage of it. Obviously, they have the elements of, the outside on their advantage of this one. What are you doing? Google.
And let's preface this. We like Detroit.
We like Detroit.
like
I
Detroit.
promise you. Stop kicking me off the internet, Facebook. I am going to go with the Lions on this. I think the Lions can beat them by a full 2 touchdowns on this one. And
Okay.
I'm going to say it hits the over because I think Tampa's going to put up their points, but I think Detroit will as well. I think Mike Evans will even outplay Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's just because he's going to be the only guy that's getting open. That's my prediction on it. And finally, last game.
Game of the week.
It's game of the week. This is the rematch. This is like mini Super Bowl, if you will, I think, in some capacity. Kansas City at Buffalo, first time ever. Buffalo favored by 3. Over-under is at 45.5. Scotty, it's rematch. What is this now? Rematch 4 or 5 for them now, including regular season and postseason?
Yeah, Andrew, you know what I did last night?
What'd you do?
For pain, I went back and I watched a video about the 2022 game in the divisional game between the Chiefs and Bills, and I just got depression watching 13 seconds and being like, I remember where I was. I was so happy thinking the Bills were finally going to beat the Chiefs. And I could see Josh Allen, start going for the Super Bowl, and it didn't happen. I was very sad. It's not happening. The definition of insanity, right? I'm going with Buffalo. This is the time for Buffalo. Last week, they had the fans in the stands clearing off the seats, and they were, sliding down the troughs and stuff. They were having a little too much fun.
Yep.
But I don't know if you actually heard about this. Apparently, 7 weeks ago, someone fell into a hole where they're building the new stadium.
Yes.
And they've been doing it every week, and that's why they're winning. It's continuing now.
Yeah.
Okay? Sacrifice until they win the Super Bowl. Sacrifice.
Wow, we've come full circle on another that. Unbelievable.
But anyway.
In fairness, Buffalo's a weird spot, man. There's not a lot to do there. You're jumping through flaming tables. There's so much.
Yeah,
weird.
but let me just say this.
Yeah.
They wrote the ship this week with the snow shovelers. There's no more. They're not going to play around as much. Apparently, they're more determined this week, which is kind of funny. They're not offering.
Okay.
They're not offering food and drink like they were last week to get people a little rowdy.
Yeah.
They're righting the ship with the team this week. I got the Bills winning by a touchdown.
Okay, I like that. Oh man,
I love the over. I love the over.
I'm definitely taking the over on this one too. Oh God, this is tough.
No, it's not. Go with the
No, I'm going to go with the Bills on this. I'm going to stay with the 3, though, because I think this is going to be another one that goes down to the wire. I just like these two. I like both quarterbacks. I like both teams. Kansas City's defense versus Buffalo's offense is going to be the key thing right now because Kansas City's offense is kind of shaky at this point. But Rashee Rice is coming on at the right time. I mean, I don't know, but they may have found their next Tyreek Hill type of wide receiver. That kid's good. That kid's really good. And who knows? Give them another offseason. We'll see where they're at. Maybe they get another receiver. God, if they get a Keon Coleman or something like that team's going to be crazy
dangerous.
good. That team's going to be nuts. Unbelievably nuts. I'm taking Buffalo on this. All around, they're a better team. And I think they're determined, too, because Sean McDermott, I think, is I have to will this thing to win because he knows his job's not necessarily on the line, but he knows he's got to start doing the big things to win here soon. So, yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo on and take the 3, and I will definitely take the over on that one for sure. And that's going to do it for us here, ladies and gentlemen. Except for?
You want to do the thing?
Yes, we can.
College football?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
For college football, ladies and gentlemen.
For college football.
Please explain, Scotty.
So the season's over, right? And obviously we didn't get a full season of picks in for either sport, but we got some awards to give away. The 2 biggest things that I went by was the person with the most wins and the person that, had the biggest winning percentage. because that matters when you gamble on who you think's going to win. So the first award we have is the Nick Saban Award. This award is given to the person with the most correctly predicted games in the X-Bomb Sports College Football Pick 6. Nick Saban, of course, is the winningest head coach in college football history with a total of 292 wins. And the winner of that award is our very own Andrew Pepe Valentin. Congratulations. 21 wins on the year. We have a trophy for you. If you want to run that up real quick for him?
Oh, my God.
Trophy for him.
I didn't even know.
Congratulations.
Oh,
It came down to the
oh my
wire,
goodness.
but it was
Oh.
beautiful.
I just have so many people to thank. First off, I would just like to thank myself for always being correct about picking the right winners. I would also just like to thank Scotty for always being wrong with his picks. And Nick as well. You like me. You really like me. Thank you, Scotty, so much. I do appreciate it. Nothing's inscribed on here, by the way, folks. That's
Look, man. Look, hey.
He breaks
At least
my
I got
light
you
bulbs.
something.
He's
At
not
least I
even
got
writing
you
my name on this. No, I got to go in there and etch it myself. Like, all right, come
So
on.
ungrateful.
Thank you,
So
Scotty.
ungrateful.
I appreciate it. I
And
do.
then, and then we got one more award, the Larry Krez Award, which for Mount Union University, Larry Krez holds the winning percentage with a 92% win percentage in his 27 seasons at Mount Union University.
Yes.
So this award goes to the person with the highest winning percentage.
And who would that be,
correctly
Scotty?
predicted games over the course compared to everything else in the season, and the winner of that is just myself. I was correct on 69% of the games that I was able to choose. Had a couple good runs. What are you laughing for?
I still think, I'm still convinced Scotty just did this to give himself a trophy.
No, I didn't.
I'm so convinced
No,
you
do you want to know the reason why I did this?
Why?
Did do this? It's because I wanted to make a 69 joke.
Bijan, I want you to kill his mic. Take his mic away from him.
But no, actually though, like
Take the camera off of him.
I didn't think that. I thought David was gonna win it with his staggering 4-2 record.
Oh my
but
God.
just to finish it off, this was the ending standings. With Andrew being on top with a 21-14 record, mostly capped off for his first week going 6-0.
That's true.
But that's what got him the big overall win.
That is
and
very-
then obviously if David was maybe on there a little more, he'd be right.
Well, David's a busy man, as we've
He's a
come to know.
busy man. We
so.
love David.
Absolutely.
Nick joined in very late. He probably would have been in contention too.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
both these awards if he was in from the front. But good season all around for college football. We love everything that went with it.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you again. Congratulations to all the winners. And, of course, congratulations to you guys as well for being the most wonderful fans in the world. And a real big thank you to everybody out there in the back as well, to Scotty, to Bjorn, to Jessica, and, of course, to Julius, who isn't here with us as well. And, of course, shout out to our other people as well, David, Nick, and Antonia, who can be with us here right now. Just want to say thank you to you guys. Obviously, if you want to catch any more of us, please follow us on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm not putting up the
Yeah,
Facebook
we'll
graphic for
see
a
about
reason.
the other one. But on Twitch and YouTube, you can definitely catch us right now for sure. That's going to be at youtube.com and twitch.tv/XBomb Sports for the both of them. Obviously, you want to find us anymore. We are at XBomb Sports on Twitter and Instagram. We're starting to get more of that going, ladies and gentlemen, so be on the lookout for that as well. And, of course, if you have any questions or comments, as we've been doing a little bit more now that we're going to have some more free time, you can hit us up at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com for the questions and comments and things like that, so please make sure to let us know. Also, too, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you have an opportunity to, we would love for you to be able to donate to the American Cancer Society. They're in both links in the description for YouTube and, well, the other one. But we'll find a way to get the link also there on Twitch as well. I'm going to try and figure that out, too. But please, if you can, go to the American Cancer Society. Please donate. Every little bit helps. We want to make sure that we raise awareness for cancer of all kinds. So please go there and please donate. Or if anything, help to raise the awareness. Share the link. We really appreciate that. And of course, too, I don't think I have the lower third for it, but it's okay. Also, as well, do the same for St. Jude's Children's Hospital as well, to be able to help make sure that there is enough to go around and be able to help these children that are in need, that are in the hospital. Please, we want to be able to do everything we can to be able to help get that cause out there as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you guys all so much for listening. For those of you that could stay with us until a certain something decided to shut down.
Zuck, we're going to have discussions.
What
Mark.
is it about Detroit that turns you on so much, man?
Maybe
Jeez.
it was my Deshaun Watson comment.
If I find out it was something that was said by us, we're gonna have hell to pay. I'm not suing Facebook, but I mean, you know, I'm writing a very strongly worded letter with a lot of big words that they can't spell check in Spanish.
I mean, Zuck's an alien, so like he'll probably know it.
Yeah, I'll do it in another language. Google Translate that.
Make them go to Google Translate
exactly.
just to understand your email. Andrew, I support this.
I'm gonna make it like 100-point font too, so like it takes up like 1,000 pages.
Nah, send them a PowerPoint presentation.
Send them a PowerPoint presentation. You know what? I just might. Thank you guys all so much for watching, listening. We will see you guys next week when we'll have another show. We really appreciate it as always, and I have to say, of course, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.